Hello, everybody. I hope that your Lent is going well. I'm going to do a brief reflection on the readings for the second Sunday of Lent. And it begins with the Old Testament reading, the first reading. It's from the book of Genesis, chapter 22. It says, God put Abraham to the test. He called to him, Abraham. Here I am, he replied. Then God said, take your son Isaac, your only one whom you love, and go to the land of Moriah. There you shall offer him up as a holocaust on a height that I will point out to you. When they came to the place of which God had told him, Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. Then he reached out and took the knife to slaughter his son. But the Lord's messenger called to him from heaven, Abraham, Abraham. Here I am, he answered. Do not lay your hand on the boy, says the messenger. Do not do the least thing to him. I know now how devoted you are to God, since you did not withhold from me your own beloved son. As Abraham looked about, he spied a ram, caught by its horns in the thicket. So he went and took the ram and offered it up as a holocaust in place of his son. Again the Lord's messenger called to Abraham from heaven and said, I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you acted as you did in not withholding from me your beloved son, I will bless you abundantly and make your descendants as countless as the stars of the sky and the sands of the seashore. Your descendants shall take possession of the gates of their enemies, and in your descendants all the nations of the earth shall find blessing. All of this because you obeyed my command. There's a lot going on here in this reading, but I just want to focus on one thing mainly, and that is Abraham's faith. It was incredible, and it's inspirational to us, especially during Lent. Abraham's son Isaac is not only the most precious thing he has, what he loves, it's also the fulfillment of the covenant. God promises him land and descendants as numerous as the stars of the sky and the sands of the seashore. How can he have descendants without Isaac? And it took 25 years before that promise was fulfilled and Isaac was born. And now God is telling him to sacrifice his son? To kill the very fulfillment of the promise? It must have seemed so odd to Abraham. He must have felt like, I've been so faithful. I've done what God wants. Now why is he asking this of me? But he trusts in God, even though it sounds impossible to Abraham. How can God fulfill his promise if he wants me to sacrifice my son? But yet he trusts. And he knows that Yahweh is not deceiving him, that God doesn't do that. Now again, the pagans who live in that area, the non-Jews who lived in that area at the time, they believed in false gods who were tricksters, who deceived them all the time. So Abraham had to have a great faith to know that Yahweh wasn't like that. Yahweh wasn't deceiving him. And he is willing to do what God wants. And of course, the messenger of God stops him, does not allow him to do the sacrifice, sending a clear message that no, human sacrifice is not how you honor God. That's evil. Instead, how do we honor God? By remaining faithful, by giving ourselves over to God and following him, even when it is hardest to follow him, even when it is most difficult to trust and to have faith and to believe. We still have to have faith and still have to trust in God. That's the message that God is sending to Abraham, and praising him for the fact that he does remain faithful, and he blesses him. You have your descendants will be as countless as the stars of the sky and the sands on the seashore. Your descendants will take possession of the gates of their enemies, right? And all the nations of the earth will find blessing in your descendants. All this because you obeyed my command, because he was obedient to God. And I love when the Lord calls to him, what does he say? Here I am. He gives himself completely to God. It's a great message for us as the second week of Lent. We may start Lent, our sacrifices and our kind of desert experience. We may start out strong, a week ago on Ash Wednesday, and now we're a week in, and you reach that point where you're like, oh, geez, this fasting stuff, this sacrifice, it's kind of getting old. I don't like this, don't want to continue. And this is telling us to maintain that faith, to keep up faith, keep going, even when it seems difficult, even when it seems impossible. Nothing is impossible with God. We are still called to follow him. Okay? So keep up the good work. Keep up the Lenten sacrifice, the Lenten prayer and devotion to God. And always look to God and place your trust in Him.